back to Dial Twang. I'm Dave. So we're still on this D thing, and we've called it British invasion, Southern, uh, classic rock. It seems to mean something to everybody, and a little bit different because this riff and this kind of thing just shows up in so many different places, and so I figured it deserves another little look here as far as jamming over this. Now, the video 3 or 4 days ago, I think, covers the lick itself and things pretty well, so we don't need to spend time on that today necessarily. If this is your first time, welcome, first of all. Glad that you're here. Um, or you haven't seen that one, don't worry about it. Just go back and watch it if you want. This will still make sense. But we kind of break down, the first kind of layer of the onion on this one in that video. Then in between the video I'm talking about and this, there's like a 4 or 5 minute backing track of that riff that I just played over, and I'll have a smaller segment of it at the end of this video. So if we don't do anything else today, I want to get this one thing really going here with this targeting idea. Now, we talked about that a lot with the root, the third, and the fifth in that previous video. This time we're really going to talk about the root, but it's more of about a technique of kind of doubling up on that target note and landing in one position, playing the same note on a different string immediately afterward in another position as a means of traveling around the neck, especially going up in most of the examples I'm about to show you. That sounded way more complicated than it really is. Here's what I'm talking about. Okay. Now, landed on the root D. Okay. So we're when I say root, we're talking about the note D. That's just a little blues lick. You can bend it up and back. You can start with it up. You can do it any which way you want it. Thing you're adding right there is that another D on this string below it, but sliding right into that thing. Now, all right, well, that sounds pretty cool, but what's the big deal? Well, hang in there for a minute. It's a lick in and of itself. It adds a bunch of dimension and dynamics and motion to something that's otherwise, a good lick on its own, but it embellishes. This kind of gets you going, right? It's kind of spark. It kind of jump starts you. Just try it a few times. It feels really good. So when you do that, you just feel like, oh, yeah, now something else is about to happen here. And this is the really cool part, is that you've changed positions in this way that's just not real, heady. You're not really like, oh, I'm going to go up here, then I'm going to cage out down here, then cage. All that stuff works great. This is something that just kind of gets you there instantly. And when I say get you there, it gets you to another position where then you can also do some different. This is where it is nice to know a lot of your different pentatonic positions and things, versions along the neck, right? So you can also just work that out as you go here. So here's an example of that. If I go. Okay, so see, licks that you might already be pretty familiar with. That's all D major pentatonic type stuff, right? So far, we're going to do a little minor pentatonic up here in a second. But this kind of that. Maybe that's where the Southern comments came from, right? So it does have that. It does have that, you know, dong dang, dang, you know, beat to it also. So you know that root's just going to work over any part of that bass line and stuff too. Okay, so embellishing something that's melodically simple, you know, pentatonic stuff, kind of working around that root, but then the timing and the bouncing and the dancing and this kind of unison sliding really gets it going. It's a simple formula. I like this position right here. I like this because of the twang. I like this just because it's just sweet. See what's going on there? Here's 3 of them in a row. Sorry, no, I had to think about that last one for a second. But these 2 are the same octave. They're just in different positions. A little sloppy again, but you get the idea, right? So if you're not down with that pinky, you're still working on stuff like that, simplify it. You just practice that a bunch of times and do it in those 2 positions. Up here you can. I'm just moving this up. Okay. Now, composition-wise, playing a solo and not with, you know, using pretty simple concepts. Here's where this can really start to pay off. And I'm going to kind of go slow here and not let it run away. It's tempting. So what just happened? The same stuff we've been talking about, looking at here, that sort of thing. But when I got up here, I just did more of a kind of a minor pentatonic. Right? Sometimes though I will use that major third, get a little bit more of that Mixolydian sound, because that's, if you look at the triad D, the root 3rd and 5th are D, F sharp, A. So that's that F sharp. It's not really in the minor pentatonic. But that's a good little thing to mix in there, and you can do it just back to back. This is kind of a little bit of a side note here, but this is worth looking at real quick. Okay, isn't that neat? That both, even though those are just right next door, they both work when you put them in the flow of this kind of progression, this kind of chord theory. And that's really cool because you're just mixing that kind of modal sound right back and forth, alternating it with that real basic bluesy sound. Then turning right back around and doing just that straight up minor pentatonic. Okay, that's a little bit of that old Rick Derringer stuff or whatever, right? That major third is just rocky as hell, right? So, not to get too sidetracked, but you use here's a little practice routine. Right there. Ah, well, let's try it. I bet we can do it in different parts of this too. Doesn't always have to be lined up with the beginning of the track. Okay. Sorry. I get carried away because it feels so good. Right? You can't stop doing it. So hopefully that makes sense. That's a great little example where you're using the position change, you're doubling up on that target note, root note D, and you're using a couple of different melodic scale pieces of theory that enrich, that make it more complex. But it's pretty a simple. It's a pretty simple program, right? And there's a little theme right there. Build on that. Do a little call and response type thing. You know, after you get familiar with that, get comfortable with that one version of it, start moving it around, make it a little more conversational. That's going to take off for you, man. You're right there. You're knocking at the door if you're putting those 3 or 4 elements together. But don't take on too much too fast, right? If this, gets a little wobbly, go back and watch the video again, right? Send me an email or something. Um, that's the idea here. Um, then there's one other little thing I was going to mention. I can't think of it right now. I thought of it when we were playing there. That's a good place to um, to stop. Uh, it's a really quick little recap. I'm just going to play a little bit of that practice routine, and then I'll get you to the practice loop. Work out on this. Let me know how it goes. Thank you. See you next time. Sorry, I just thought of it. Here it is. When you go, we do that all the time, right? And that's the same concept where we've hit the note and then we bend to the same note. And we do this a lot. We just probably maybe haven't thought of it so precisely like that. But you even can repeat. Right. So I just wanted to throw that in there because that's kind of an important little connection to make. That this playing a note, then playing the same note with an embellishment on a different string shows up all the time in rock and blues. So back to our outro. Talk to you soon.